Imagine a world where energy is infinite and almost free. No coal, no oil, no emissions. This is not science fiction, but a project that is already underway. China is building an artificial sun, a giant thermonuclear reactor that could change everything. This reactor is called EAST. Experimental, Advanced, Superconducting Tokamak. It mimics the processes occurring in the core of a star. Inside, the temperature is more than 200 million degrees. That's 10 times hotter than the actual sun. The idea is simple. Compress hydrogen atoms, until they fuse and release a tremendous amount of energy. This is exactly how our star works, but replicating this process on Earth is incredibly difficult. Scientists have struggled for decades with the problem of containing this scorching plasma. But there is progress. By the late 2020s, China, Europe, and the USA plan to launch ITER, the first industrial fusion reactor. If everything works out, humanity will gain an inexhaustible energy source that is safe, powerful, and clean. But there is another side. The success of nuclear fusion will render unnecessary traditional energy resources. This will change the economy, politics, and even global power balances of power. Whoever creates a working reactor first will become the energy leader of the planet. The race is already on. But China is not only building a reactor, it is also creating one of the most ambitious cities of the future. In the Saudi Arabian desert, a city is being built that looks like a set from a science fiction movie. This is Neom, a 170-mile-long megacity with mirrored walls and futuristic technologies. The project is personally supported by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. His idea is to create the world's first city without cars, streets, and a carbon footprint. All transportation will be underground, with only greenery and pedestrian zones on the surface. The city's walls will be covered with mirrored panels. They will reflect sunlight and protect residents from the heat. The city itself will become fully autonomous. Energy from solar panels, water from desalination plants, artificial intelligence for management. But is it possible to build such a thing? The first sections have already been constructed. The project has received investments of over $500 billion. The first residents will be able to move to Neom in the early 2030s. However, the project also has its critics. Some consider it too expensive, and the technology is unrealistic. But if Neom is indeed built, it will change the concept of cities. After all, humanity is already seeking ways to protect against climate change. And one such solution could be a project that aims to stop the rise of water levels in Europe. Scientists have proposed a crazy, yet the only way to save millions of people from flooding. They want to build a wall across the North Sea to stop the water from rising. The length of such a dam is 340 miles. The height is tens of feet. It will cover the entire space between the United Kingdom, France, the Netherlands, and Norway. Inside will be the most densely populated cities in Europe: Amsterdam, Brussels, Copenhagen. This solution didn't just appear out of nowhere. The water level is rising, which means entire countries are at risk of going underwater. Scientists are certain that if nothing is done, in a few decades half of the Netherlands will be flooded. But the dam is not just a concrete wall. It's an engineering marvel. Huge locks will allow ships to pass and control the currents. Power plants on the dam will be able to generate energy from the waves. But how realistic is this? The cost is hundreds of billions of dollars. The construction time is several decades. However, in the face of the climate crisis, the Dutch government is already seriously considering this project. But while some are building dams, others are creating technologies that will allow us to peer into the depths of the universe. What if we could see the first seconds after the birth of the universe? Find out if there is life on other planets. All of this could become a reality thanks to the new Square Kilometer Array telescope. It's not just a telescope, it's an entire network of antennas covering an area of a square mile. Located in Australia and South Africa, they will together collect signals from the farthest corners of space. This telescope, 50 times more sensitive than any existing radio telescopes. It will be able to peer into the darkest corners of the universe and possibly detect traces of alien civilizations. But its construction is a real challenge. Thousands of antennas need to be synchronized, protected from radio interference, and a supercomputer must be created to process this massive data stream of data. Testing of the first components has already begun. The full launch is planned for the 2030s. If everything succeeds, this project will change our understanding of space. But astronomy is not the only field where humanity is reaching a new level. Scientists are already working on a project that could change the climate of the entire planet. Global warming is one of humanity's main problems. and some scientists believe that the solution might be radical. In the Earth. How does it work? A thin layer of aerosols is sprayed into the stratosphere, which reflects sunlight. The temperature on the planet decreases, glaciers stop melting, and the climate stabilizes. This idea emerged after the eruption of Mount Pinatubo in 1991. At that time, the ash emission lowered the global temperature by almost 1 degree. Scientists wondered, what if we could replicate this effect artificially? Harvard researchers are already testing this technology. New experiments are planned for the coming years. If the method works, humanity will have a way to control the climate. But the risks are enormous. Who will decide what temperature the planet needs? Which countries will suffer from the side effects? For now, these questions remain unanswered. But research continues, because while some scientists are working on the atmosphere, others are building a new type of transportation that will change the speed of travel. Imagine a train that moves faster than a plane, without noise, without traffic, without turbulence. This is not science fiction, this is Hyperloop, a new type of transportation being developed in the USA and the United Arab Emirates. The principle is simple. A capsule with passengers moves in a vacuum tube on a magnetic cushion. Without air resistance and friction, the train can accelerate to incredible speeds of over 600 miles per hour. The idea of Hyperloop was proposed by Elon Musk in the early 2000s. But private companies were the first to start building it. In the USA, the project is being handled by Virgin Hyperloop. In the UAE, they are building the first real route between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. The first tests have already been successfully completed. They promise to launch the first commercial routes in the 2030s. This could completely change the transportation system. Short-distance flights will become unnecessary, traffic jams will disappear, and travel time will be reduced significantly. But the innovations don't stop there. While some are speeding up transportation, others are trying to create an endless source of energy. Humanity has long dreamed of clean energy. In Australia, they are building one of the most ambitious projects, a giant solar farm that will be able to supply electricity to entire countries. The project is called Sun Cable. It will connect thousands of solar panels over an area of more than 3,000 square miles. The generated energy will be sent via an underwater cable to Singapore, providing electricity to millions of people. But it's not just about the size. The main feature is the giant batteries that can store energy and supply it even at night. This solves the main problem of solar power plants: the instability of generation. The project is scheduled to launch in the mid-2030s. If everything goes well, it will become the largest solar power plant in the world. And perhaps it is projects like these that will help us move away from fossil fuels. But while some are building power plants, others are creating machines that can conquer even the Arctic, as the Arctic becomes a zone of strategic competition. The ice is melting, opening up new trade routes, and Russia is building the most powerful icebreaker in history, a vessel named Russia. This ship will be able to break ice over 10 feet thick. Its purpose is to escort convoys of ships through the Northern Sea route. This will allow for faster delivery of goods between Europe and Asia, bypassing the Suez Canal. Russia is part of the LEADER project. A total of 3 such icebreakers are planned to be built. They will become the most powerful in the world, operating on nuclear energy. The construction of the first icebreaker is in full swing. It is expected to be launched in the 2030s. This will change the entire logistics of global trade. But the fight against natural disasters continues not only in the Arctic. In Indonesia, they are building a giant wall to save an entire capital. Jakarta is one of the fastest sinking cities on the planet. Every year, the capital of Indonesia sinks by several inches. The reason is massive construction and ground subsidence. If nothing is done, in a few decades the city will simply disappear underwater. The solution is to build a giant sea wall around Jakarta. This project is called the Great Garuda. The dam will be shaped like the mythical eagle, a symbol of Indonesia. The wall will protect coastal areas from tides and storms. Inside, new reservoirs will be created to help solve the freshwater problem. Construction has already begun, but the entire project will be completed only by the mid-2030s. If successful, it will become one of the largest hydraulic engineering structures in history. But fighting water is only part of global engineering projects. While some are protecting cities from floods, others are building colonies on the moon. Humanity has always dreamed of living on other planets. Now it is becoming a reality. The European Space Agency plans to build the first permanent base on the moon. This project has been named Moon Village. The idea is to create modular settlements where astronauts can live and conduct research. The key technology is 3D printing. The bases will be built directly on the surface of the moon, using lunar regolith sand. This will reduce costs and eliminate the need to transport construction materials from Earth. The first mission with test modules is planned for the late 2020s. Full-scale construction will begin in the 2030s. If everything goes well, the moon will become a starting point for future flights to Mars. But for now, these are just plans. Meanwhile, on Earth, new forms of cities are already being created, right under the water. It sounds like science fiction. But engineers and scientists are developing projects for underwater megacities that could become a new home for millions of people. One of the most ambitious projects is the Japanese Ocean Spiral. It's a gigantic spherical city that will be located underwater and connected to the surface by a massive spiral structure. Here, it will be possible to grow food, extract minerals from the ocean floor, and even generate energy from ocean currents. Another project is Proteus, the world's first deep-sea research station. It is being created by the famous oceanographer Fabien Cousteau. This space will function like an underwater equivalent of the International Space Station. Scientists will be able to live there for months, studying the ocean and developing new technologies. The first prototypes are already undergoing testing. If everything works out, in the coming decades, people will be able to live right in the ocean. But technology is needed not only for the future. Right now, a mega factory is being built in South Korea that will change electronics manufacturing. South Korea has decided to create the world's largest chip production center. The Silicon Project is a mega park of factories that will cover an area of more than 50 square miles. The main goal is to become the world leader in semiconductor production. Currently, most chips are made in Taiwan, but Korea wants to change that. The new factories will produce millions of microchips every day, supplying electronics to the entire world. Why is this necessary? Chips are the brain of any modern technology. Smartphones, computers, cars, even military equipment. All of this depends on microchips. If suddenly the supply stops, the world will plunge into a technological crisis. The first phase of the plant will open in the early 2030s. This is one of the most expensive industrial projects in history. More than $200 billion have been allocated for it. But while some are building factories, others are creating new routes for global trade. In Israel, a project has been launched that could change all logistics in the Middle East. Israel is building an alternative to the Suez Canal, a new railway route that will connect the Mediterranean Sea with the Red Sea. The length of this high-speed highway is 180 miles. Goods will be able to move faster and cheaper than through the Suez Canal. This will reduce the delivery time of goods between Europe and Asia. Why is this necessary? The Suez Canal is one of the busiest waterways in the world. Any accident or blockage leads to billions in losses. An alternative route will provide more flexibility for global trade. The project has already been approved by the government. The launch of the first line is expected in the 2030s. Have you ever heard about the most important strategic route on the planet? It connects Europe and Asia, allowing thousands of ships to pass through each year. But each year the traffic increases, and the old canal can no longer cope. Therefore, Egypt has begun a grand expansion. The new project will add a second line to the canal, doubling its capacity. This will help avoid traffic jams like the one that happened with the Ever Given in 2021. Back then, due to a single accident, the canal was blocked for several days, causing the global economy losses of tens of billions of dollars. The work is already underway. In the coming years, the canal will become wider, deeper, and safer. But while humanity changes trade routes, scientists are trying to preserve what might disappear forever. A unique project to collect glaciers has started in Antarctica. Glaciers are the archive of Earth's history. Each layer of ice contains information about the climate, atmosphere, and disasters that occurred thousands of years ago. But the problem is that these glaciers are rapidly melting. To preserve the data for future generations, scientists have initiated the ICE Memory Project. They drill cores, cylindrical samples of ice, and send them for storage in Antarctica, where they will remain frozen for hundreds of years. Why is this necessary? In these samples, one can find traces of ancient volcanoes, air pollution, and even viruses that existed thousands of years ago. This will help us understand how the climate has changed and what disasters might await us in the future. The first batch of ice has already been sent to storage. In the coming years, scientists will collect dozens of samples from around the world. And this is just the beginning. Humanity stands on the threshold of a new era of megaprojects. The technologies that seem impossible today may change the world forever in just a few decades. And now, friends, I want to make you an interesting offer. You have a unique opportunity to become part of our team. If you have video editing skills, can voice over videos in Russian, English, and other languages, or write interesting scripts, we would be happy to work with you. Contact us through our Telegram bot. The link is in the description.